I woke up this morning with new wisdom on my mind. I know who I am. There's no need to hide. I got something to say. I'm thinking that it's time. Why? Cause I'm a young intellect. I'm a young intellect. I'm a young intellect. I'm a young intellect. Pay me my respect.
You are now tuned in to the Young Intellect podcast, an open space where experiences and opinions are welcomed, hosted by Andreas, Sam, and Mafwa, welcoming you to our open space to teach, learn, laugh, and love.
And I am your co-host, Sam, here to encourage you to explore different ways to view the world at large.
We're back again.
With another episode.
Yes.
Welcome back. Well, welcome back to our show.
Yes. And this week it's going to be a really cool episode just for us to discuss 10 things that we had to unlearn on our journey, because prior to last season we did 10 things that we learned. So this season we thought we could do a 10 things that we've unlearned. And in life you do have to learn things, but you also unlearn things that no longer serve you, that you learned before, that might have helped you during that time, or things that you were just taught that might have been used to your detriment. But we're just speaking on things that we had to unlearn, or we're currently unlearning, because some of them I have come to the realization that I need to unlearn them, and I'm in the process of unlearning, but I haven't officially unlearned them.
Yeah, because life is a process, like a journey, and there's things that you're gonna have to unlearn. Well, you usually learn things, and I feel like unlearning things is also learning as well. Because when you unlearn certain things, you pick up other stuff that you're able to learn.
That is very true. So, did you want to go first? Should I go first? Which one?
I think I'll go first.
Okay.
So I guess my first one will be college is the way to go. So, and especially growing up in the environment I grew up in my background, it's always like school is important, which is true, which is extremely true. But sometimes it's not the way to go. It's really not. And sometimes people can make it out in life without going to college. In these past few days, I've honestly been realizing that it's not even going to college for me. It was the major that I chose was really trash. I was just like, why did I even waste my time? I was just going through that moment. And of saying dang, this was a waste of my time picking this career. But overall, for me, I learned that you do not have to go to college to make it anywhere in life. Like, people are doing what they're supposed to be doing, and they have no college education. There's nothing wrong with not going. It's just you have to look within yourself to see what kind of person that you are, and how you can succeed in the world with the skills that you have.
Preach. My sis said a word. It feels like Sunday and I'm at church because you said a word.
Hey.
Yeah, that's something I've learned, and I'm realizing that you don't really need college. And if I had known that, I don't know if I would have still went to college, or if I was taught differently, I probably wouldn't have. But for me, that was my only option, because it's all I knew, and my family was just like, yeah, that's all they knew. And when they say school's important or education's important, I just think they mean the act of learning and growing your knowledge base. But you don't need to go to school to grow your knowledge base. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, definitely. I would still go. It's just I would choose the different major. I usually don't say I regret things in life, but I do regret picking my major because it's just trash. But it's a learning experience. There's a reason why I had to go through this experience. So I'm just gonna take it as it is. So what's something that you had to unlearn?
Self-doubt. And self-doubt in the way that I always think that I'm not good enough to do something. Not I'm not good enough, but because that's another thing I had to unlearn. But just self-doubt in the sense that I think that I might not be able to do something, and I think that other people are better at doing it than me, and someone else can do it but I can't, and that's something I had to unlearn. I don't know exactly where I learned that from, probably from the people around me and like just their actions, but I did learn that along the way. And learning that I can do things, and like I realized that I could do things, so I did have to unlearn the fact that I thought that I couldn't. And it's okay to doubt yourself, like it's really not. And you should go for the things that you want, and you should put yourself first. And sometimes like I have thoughts and I don't really listen to them because I feel like I can't do them, but it's like too big for me to do, and that's something I'm unlearning how to do.
Yeah, I think the doubt, people when they doubt themselves is brought on by like a lot of pressure that you have and unrealistic expectations that people have for themselves. And when they have these expectations and they're not meeting this expectation and they started to doubt themselves, that's not all of it, but that's part of it as well. And I also think sometimes comparison is could be a reason as well, because when we look at other people and we're like, well, they're doing this and I'm not doing that, so I can't do it because I'm not doing it at this right at this exact moment. And then we start doubting ourselves as well. And I do suffer from self-doubt. Like I'm always going through it. I'm just trying to bring in more positivity into my life and unlearn these ways of saying, hey, I can't do it, because like they said, the tongue is a powerful thing. Like when you say you can't, or like you talking down upon yourself, the negativity will occur instead of the positivity that you aspire to have.
Mm. Yeah, I, I definitely see what you're saying. Self doubt for me was just a huge thing, and I believe it's a big thing for everyone. Everyone has some sort of self doubt, and I have to learn to catch myself, because it's been such a like comforting space for me to just be like I can't do it and leave it like that. It's really been also stepping out of my comfort zone to achieve things as well.
But this is a good thing that you're unlearning self-doubt. And I think that's a lot of us are on that journey of unlearning um doubting ourselves, learning that we can do whatever we want to do. There's nothing that is, we're not really limited, but our mind limits us sometimes.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, I guess for me, something else, I think we mentioned this a little bit in previous episodes, but something that I had to unlearn is to be in a relationship in my 20s, or like not really in my 20s, but when I'm young, being in a relationship and that marriage is the best way to go. Like, especially go like for me, I never really thought marriage was anything, but like as I grew older a little bit, society is like telling me, marriage is the way to go. You don't want to be another statistic of unmarried couples and stuff like that. So I started thinking like, maybe they're right, maybe they're right. And then as I grew older, I'm like, no, people can choose whatever they want with their life. It is your life, like regardless of whatever you want. And also being in a relationship is not something that everyone has as a goal. Like I had to unlearn that like a relationship is not a goal, it's something that you want. It's not a necessity. It is a need, a want. It's not a need, it's a want. So like it's not important for me to be in one, because I know people pressure you and sometimes they're like, oh, you're this age and you're not in one, or they think like your sexuality is different because you're not in a relationship. But it's totally okay if you don't want to be. It's totally okay to build a relationship with yourself, because most people that are in relationships don't have no type of relationship with themselves, and they don't know how to have a relationship with themselves because all they know is being in relationships with others, and that's their business as well. But I had to unlearn that being in a relationship is not like a defining goal, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does, and that's a very good lesson to learn because I thought I was like a little failure because I wasn't married and I'm 22. Well, not that I thought I was a failure, but I just thought like, okay, soon I have to get married because I'm this age. But it's not like I actually want to get married right now. So I was like, okay, wait, hold on. Why do I feel the need to get married? And it's something that we've learned that, okay, you have to get married by this age. And if it's older, then it's kind of weird, but there's nothing wrong with not wanting to get married, not getting married, or waiting until you're older to start that. And yeah.
And also, like, I don't really like the word being a statistic. Who says that this is the right way? Like, who says that you have to? What is being a statistic if you're not married or if you want to have children without marriage? Like, I feel like it's kind of a negative way to put things. Some people that's not their aspiration in life, and that's okay.
Mm,
And yeah, sometimes and be like you don't have like for me it's just like people are like, oh, I'm like I'm still young, I'm gonna enjoy myself. I don't have to be in a relationship. I can just if I want to, I can just date around and start dating now. Like it's I'm still pretty young. Life is just a golden opportunity for me to just explore myself and like enjoy myself and not just tie myself down because society is telling me you need to tie yourself down, you need to do this, you need to do that.
yeah, and I think the interesting part about this is that the relationship aspect of it is the changing views. I think it's changing for a lot of people right now. Um, Not just us. And I kind of tie it back to the change in society over time. Like people change and then society changes as a group. And some of our views before were that, marriage and kids by this age is important. Um, as a group, we're coming out of that into a new age where, okay, instead of having a timeline to do things, we take our time to do these things. And because so many people are just like, they don't want to have kids at a young age, and they want to live life a bit more for them and experience a bit more for them. And I think that's a shift, like a collective shift we're going through, which is pretty interesting.
Ooh. What about you? What's something?
Another thing I had to unlearn was keeping quiet. And I would say this as like I grew up in a very traditional African household where the youngest, like when you're a child, you don't speak over adults, and your opinion like isn't really necessary. It's not needed, and especially being the youngest, you have older siblings whose opinions will come before yours. So like my older brother, my older sister, then mine. So I always kind of grew up with like a shut tongue, like I will biting my tongue, not really saying my full opinion because I always knew that it wasn't really necessary or needed. But as I grow older and I do more for myself, I realize that I have a lot to say and I have my opinions, and voicing them is important. And asking questions, being curious is important because that's how you learn things. And like I struggle to ask questions just to find things out because for a long time I'm like I don't really need to find anything out because people around me already got it figured out because like I'm the youngest, and other people have their opinions which have much more weight than mine, and it's just not true because like it kind of it hindered me from learning more, being explorative. So I do take it upon myself to ask more questions, and I'm learning. It's something that I'm learning how to do, ask more questions. But in the process of learning how to ask more questions, I'm unlearning to speak. I'm unlearning keeping quiet.
I'm glad you're letting your voice be heard. And you said something that kind of rang to me because you said like you're the youngest, so like your opinion is not as important or something along those lines. And I realized something in life. I guess like it's gonna touch on your unlearn. It's not really my unlearn, kind of my unlearn. Not really. We'll figure it out. But it's just society tells us that like older is wiser. Wisdom comes with age. But like I don't really think that. I think that wisdom comes with just experience and what you've gone through in life, not necessarily age, because you can be 1,000 years old and you're not as wise as somebody that might be 5 years old that's been through more and seen more in life. So I judge wisdom on that. And I don't think you should keep quiet. Well, yeah, you're not doing it anymore, but I don't think you should have kept quiet because you're younger. Because it didn't matter how old you were. You probably had more wisdom than people that were twice as old as you were.
Mm, yeah, I definitely see what you're saying with wisdom comes with age, and I think like also these sayings are riddles, and not to take them verbatim because maybe age just means experience, like do you know those like textbooks that you had and then you had to go into like what the person was really saying and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. I think it might be something like that, but if you interpret it like word for word, then I definitely agree that wisdom doesn't always come with age. um because there's some people who are like a lot older than me and we're currently learning the same lessons. So it doesn't come with age, it just comes with, I don't know what it comes with, but it comes to different people at different times. But it was just how I grew up in my household. It's nothing wrong because that's how it traditionally is. But when you aren't growing up in the society, so I'm not growing up in Africa, so growing up in the Western world and having the African teachings are very conflicting because I'm taught different at home, but then taught different outside. So it's kind of like it's like push and pull. So I had to learn how to step out of one and go into the other.
Yay.
Hey,
I'm on that journey with you too.
hey.
I guess an, another one for me is upkeeping toxic relationships. So I had to unlearn keeping toxic relationships with people, regardless of if they're family, if they're friends. Like, I think your mental health is way more important than some relationship that you have with certain people that just bring you down, put a dark cloud over your head, make you anxious, make you mad, like make you angry, and just like cause you to be closer to having a heart attack. I think your mental sanity is very important. And I know sometimes like people are like, oh, even with family, oh, they're your family, they're your blood. That doesn't have to do anything with me at this point because family, friends, or whatever, anybody can get cut off. Because if you're toxic, if your families can stab you in the back just as much as friends. I'm gonna be honest. Just because somebody has the same blood as you doesn't mean they're not gonna take that knife and stab you in the back and turn you around and stab you again in the chest.
Yeah, you're totally right with upholding toxic relationships, and I guess these are things that we're both unlearning. We kind of have different, like we are unlearning like things in the same, we're unlearning the same things in our own ways, but we just pick different things to say. But upkeeping toxic relationships, and I think I've been pretty good with letting go of people. But it's something I realized that I don't need to hold on to this person if they're making me feel some type of way. I'm definitely quick to cut people off, and just stop messing with people. So yeah.
Yeah, because other people's input in your life, they're like, oh, you've known this person so long. Well, how could you do this? Or cut that person off too. Or like they're your family members. You're always going to be family. Like, it's just a no. I don't want this person in my life. And if you respect me enough, you should respect my decision to not have them in my life.
Mm.
Just because someone, and I do think people are much like lenient with family members being toxic. Even your like parents can be toxic, and it's okay to cut them off. I used to think like, oh, that's actually wrong. That is I used to really think that's your family, but no. When you go through life and you've gone through stuff with people, you realize that yeah, they can get cut off too.
Yeah, you have to realize that your parents are human, so not to like put them on this pedestal like they can do whatever and it'll always be right. They are human, and sometimes you do need to let them go. And with that, I would say another lesson I have learned. Oh, I am unlearning is self-preservation. And I know this might sound weird, but normally people feel like you have to wait for things and you know, wait for people, especially like, oh, you can't do this until you're married. How would this person look at you? Like, no one's gonna want to marry you if you've done this, or you know, you shouldn't do this. It'll make you look this type of way, and don't do that because wherever. So kind of people's expectations. And just like unlearn that those are what they believe, but it's not what I believe, and I should do what I want now because there's no telling when it's my time. And if I end up regretting not doing something, I can't blame someone else. It's only me that there is to blame for not doing what I wanted to do because I have that power. So that's one thing. Self-preservation. It's not like I don't think is a thing. I think you should do what you want, and it's something that I've only started realizing. So I am trying to do things as well, but I am trying to like stop like saying, okay, once I reach this point, I'm gonna do this. Um, I'm trying to incorporate it in the now.
Yeah, definitely. I'm guilty of it too. I'm just like, oh, I have to be able. I think for me, I use financial stability as a point of like saying, this is what I want to do. Like, it's especially like with traveling. I'm like, oh, I have to have money to travel. I have to be able to financially be able to travel. And I'm kind of stopping myself because, like, I think we mentioned this before, you just don't know how long that you have in this earth and the things that you want to do, you putting it for years later that you might not even see. And that's something I have to unlearn. I have to get past the financial limit that I set myself on so I can overcome that and actually live my life in the now and not in the later.
Mm, exactly.
And something along those lines that you said, like, you said something along like not judging people for what they do.
Hmm.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah. So one thing that I had to actually unlearn is misogynistic concepts slash shaming women for their choices. So as a young woman, like you've thought stuff, like people tell you stuff, and like you begin to believe it. You're thinking, okay, they're right. So like a woman that does this, um, things they won't get a good guy, or a woman that is sexually liberated won't find a good man, or whatever it is. But once you grow up and realize people have the choice to make whatever they want with their do whatever they want with their body, they have their choices to do whatever they want. And regardless of you being a sexual liberated woman or not, if you could still get cheated on. And also I saw a comment earlier on, it was a few days ago, and it said something about like this is why this person won't get wifed, or they won't get married because of their sexual liberation and the way they decide to express themselves. And it left a bad taste in my mouth, and I'm just like, these men don't really care, and they will marry anybody. Like, they will marry someone that's sexually liberated, they'll marry someone that's not sexually liberated, and sometimes the women that are not sexually liberated get cheated on with the women that are sexually liberated. And for me, like, shaming, I just don't see why people keep shaming women for what they do and not men at all.
Yeah, definitely with the sexual liberation part, people marry who they want to marry. So a man might marry a woman who has a lot of experience because they want to experience that. So we shouldn't act like people need to get out their head that each woman needs to be exact certain way if they want a man to love them, because like different men are different. Some men want someone who like knows what they're doing. Some men want someone who's never been with someone. I say just do you, and don't judge other people for doing them, because people are different. Not everyone sees life the same way you do, and some people think they have to be on their p's and q's and save themselves, but some people feel like they can do whatever they want because this is their life. And yeah, I definitely had to I'm still struggling with it because sometimes I do catch myself judging people. I can't act like I'm perfect, even though I do know that, people are allowed to do what they want. I'm just going off of my basis and what I've learned from life. and unlearning how to unlearning judging people is a very big one for me right now, because I realize the more that you judge people, probably the more that you judge yourself. So yeah. And I would say another thing I have had to unlearn, it kind of goes back into some of the things that I've mentioned, but following the path that others want for me or think is best. People have their opinions on how it is they think I should live my life and how they perceive me and how they want to position me. But I'm not that, and I have my own wants and needs. And for being a child, it's very easy to, well, being the child I was, because some children are very different. It was very easy for me to be told what to do and think that that was the right thing and kind of let go of what I wanted to do. So now I'm realizing, like, no, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do this. So I'm learning how to do all of those things and not feel bad for doing those things. Um, and that's where I'm at right now, with that. So yeah.
Mm. That 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 happens to a lot of people actually. And I can relate in a sense, but not exactly that way. For me, it's like at the end of the day, I'm gonna do whatever I want to do. But then again, I don't want to disappoint people. And that's where sometimes I feel like I can relate because it's like, okay, so if like sometimes with certain things, it's not a lot. With certain things, I'm just like, I I know these people have this like faith in me, they have hope in me. I don't want to become a disappointment to them. So sometimes it would halt me from making the decision that I need to make or switch a decision because there's an expectation that people have or like they believe I'm gonna be this person, I'm gonna be this great person, and I'm just like, I don't want to disappoint. And I guess that's where I fit into it with certain things. And other things, I'm just like, I'm just going to make my own decision because this is my life.
Yeah, just do what you want to do, and not and it's as crazy as it sounds, not everybody is doing what they want to do. They're doing some of it, but fully they feel the need to hide certain parts of themselves or limit or squash them down, because they want to come across a certain way. And that's definitely me. Like, I don't want to seem too crazy, too wild. I want to keep the relationships I have, and I don't want to like scare people with my real like crazy self. So like sometimes you give people a watered down version of yourself, and I'm having to let that unlearn that and actually just live as myself, all the time, which is still hard because I've been living the other way for so long, but it's coming out now.
Now that you mentioned that part, because when I was getting it, I was thinking more of like a career path. But when you're talking about personality wise, I definitely fall into it, like definitely 100%, because I don't want like sometimes I'm like I don't want people to think I'm weird. Or I don't want people to think I'm boring. So I do come off. For me, I have a barrier. Like I always have a barrier when I meet people. Like
Mm.
you won't really get to know the real me. Like I'm kind of goofy sometimes, and some people don't get to see that because I have a barrier of like how I want to be perceived. So I play into this front stage persona of myself. I want to be perceived as like, just I just don't want people to know about me. So like that persona takes over or like I'm very kind of passive. And then once you get to know me, you learn I'm I'm slightly different.
Yeah, like sometimes there's a guard there, and like I don't know, there's certain things that you would normally do, but you don't normally do because like you're meeting someone, and it like it manifests in different ways, but it has both been career for me and personality wise, and I'm learning that just forget both of those, but I definitely understand the personality one because that's definitely what I've done for such a long time.
Because I think we're all guilty of like not wanting to be judged, not wanting to fall into a negative quotation marks stereotype or negative connotation of yourself. It's a connotation. I hope I'm making sense and not
Yeah,
sounding.
you're making sense. You're making
I hope I'm just not sounding like I'm BSing things.
sense. Yeah.
But yeah, and because no one wants, everyone wants to have like I guess their best foot forward or like be judged in a positive light and not really anything quotation mark negative, even though if it's not negative, because some things about us might not be negative, but it's not socially acceptable, or like it might just be viewed as weird or other by like society. So like we try to keep that at bay and just live in on the surface, like show our surface self. And not everyone is guilty of that. Some people are like totally able to be themselves, which is like amazing because I can't. But I'm unlearning. I guess my final thing is one thing I said I wanted to unlearn because I was looking at my life and I said I wanted to unlearn doing things with other people.
Mm.
So I realized that I was looking at my life even through college. I realized that sometimes I pass on some things that could have been great opportunities because I wanted to do things with friends. Like for example, join certain clubs. I was like, oh, I'm gonna stop because my friends are not coming with me, or being afraid to just do things on my own. I'm looking at myself and be like, wait, if I actually did this on my own, like I could have gotten a positive aspect, a positive result from doing this. But I let the fact that I was probably scared of doing things, certain things on my own, stand in the way and just like fall back.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. For me, I feel like I've like it makes sense that someone would feel that way. For me, I've been on the other side because I'm very like I forgot, a big introvert, and sometimes I love spending a lot of time by myself, and I just find myself doing things by myself. And I think I'm like opposite with it. I need to learn how to do things with other people a bit more. So
Mhm.
that's why I do understand where you're coming from. Because it's kind of you need a balance of the both. Um, Being too much by yourself, I don't think it's bad, but sometimes there is a need to go with other people, um, just to experience things with them, and not just to like you're in your own world and act like people don't exist. Because it helps with the way you interact with people. Doing things by yourself, as you said, like so there's some opportunities that you could get just by doing some things by yourself and not waiting on people.
Or just experiences that you can have by doing things on by yourself. And that I guess like when I look at it, there's like some small regrets that I should have like went out a little bit on my own. But life is full of lessons that you learn, and that I can take those lessons into a different phase of my life and just do it.
Yeah, it was a good lesson to learn. And my last lesson is I am not enough, which it kind of goes in with the self doubt, really. Just feeling like the black sheep and feeling like I won't be accepted because I am the way I am, or just always feeling like I had to look a certain way to be accepted, and if I didn't look that way, I wouldn't be accepted. Because at the end of the day, we have to realize that, especially going to the school that we went to in HBCU, there were certain standards, and people would overlook you if you came across a certain way, and you like just weren't a certain type of person. So it's not like it's coming from nowhere, but then thinking that, okay, because I'm not that, I'm not enough, is something I had to unlearn. It's just like I just need to be around people who accept me and just understand that I'm enough regardless, and I can do what I want, and I don't need to be this specific way. I would say that all of these things are just things that we picked up on along the way just to fit in, but we didn't fit in because it wasn't us. And there really is no fitting in, just being yourself throughout everything. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's what
if
I love. And I really love your lessons that you've learned too.
yeah, I like yours too. I was like, oh, okay, I can relate a little bit, or I can relate to certain aspects, and then also some things I wasn't thinking about. You brought up, so I was like, okay, this is pretty cool.
Yeah,
Honestly, if people were supposed to be the same, we would not be all be alive. Okay, there would just be one person.
exactly. But there'll be no use for like 7 billion of the same person. Just like have one of them and that's it.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to see how like even though these lessons like these lessons can encompass so much, and they manifest for people in different ways. So like you learned something and I learned something, but we learned like it on the two different ends of the spectrum, and it came to us in different ways. So it kind of shows like some people had the same problems, but just it manifests different for them. So yeah.
That's a good way of putting it too. Thank you for joining us today on the Young Intellect podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show, and tell a friend to tell a friend about us, and make sure you take care of yourself and your mind.
'Cause I'm a young intellect. I'm a young intellect.